Welcome, everyone, back to Cat's Eye on the Future. This week, we return to part 2 of our amazing interview with Ralph and Marcia Ring. As we start the interview, we have just realized that after the phone call interrupted us last week, the digital recorder has not actually been recording. So we start back out. He's been describing a trip that he used to make to Hawaii, where he was working with a group of people where they were working on what they called reality templates. So he'll be taking off from there, and I think we could pretty well follow the conversation. I'm sorry about the break in between the two interviews, but that just was sort of what happens when you're doing live recordings with people around their kitchen table. But I know that everyone's going to really enjoy this interview, so please kick back and get yourself that cup of tea and get ready to listen to some really, really fascinating stuff on all kinds of topics. I'm still used to using this, and it wasn't recording. It was actually just flashing at us and telling us that our voices were modulating properly. But that's okay. We can get back to Hawaii.
Well, I don't know if you caught the idea of the residence group, and we split off into different fields. One into one way and another into the other. One basically spiritual, if you will, and the other scientifically, and the other, I don't know. Anyway, didn't matter. Anyway, we formulated this group, and we, through the art of manifestation is what we call it, we create changes within the world by changing things within ourselves collectively in this group. We'll have an idea and we'll work on it philosophically, spiritually, academically, until we feel yes or whatever. And then we let it go. And then within a very short period of time, it's manifested out in the world. There it is. It's very mysterious the way it works, but it does in fact work.
So you're sort of creating a mental template for something that maybe nobody's thought of, and then by creating that mental template, perhaps someone else picks it up and creates it.
You got it. That's
well, it's not actually original. It's something that we see in archaeology, and also in I'm not a technological person, but you have to learn a little bit to study archaeology, and certain things don't happen because the concept isn't there. For example, the Greeks and the Romans had the technology. They could have built steam engines. There's even recently been, I don't have the documentation on this, but someone who is in the SCA in Europe who's been doing research in the Roman archives says that they have found the proto-plans for an internal combustion engine. That was Roman military, black ops, the same thing we have today. And apparently the answer from the commanding officer was, we can't use this, give me something I can use, go do a better, spear or something. And so just like the steam engines were used to open temple doors, but they never seem to have made the leap to, say, heating hot water, or at least not that we know of, or making steamships, because they had other ways to accomplish those things that were working. So they didn't have the mental template out there in the culture to use some of the technology they had. We could have had an industrial revolution 2,000 years ago, but that template wasn't there. Again, the Chinese almost did it. They got as far as tempering steel in the 9th century. They didn't quite make it to going to the looms and everything that came later. So I really get this concept. But what you're doing is, if it's true that all of our minds are linked, then it strikes me that if you can think of something, then you can sort of broadcast it out there and the ether in some way. So you don't necessarily have to invent it yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's a shortcut, if you will, or a more expedient way, if you will, or a simpler way of doing things. You don't have to have the nuts and bolts anymore. And in the knowing of quantum realities, which is now becoming very, very popular, you realize that this is composed of the same thing that we are, energy. On different vibratory rates and different frequencies, this is existing here. So if I just,
And Ralph is talking about a cup that's sitting in front of him.
Thank you.
sorry, that if I so chose, I could start morphing this energy into another situation, which is starting to happen now. The so-called black ops that are going on now, they're working in this technology. The difference between their technology and our technology is they're using electromagnetic fields and understanding electromagnetism, and we are operating with pure magnetism, and there's a great difference. There's no resistance, there's no friction in magnetism, and it can be used for fuel to go to the ends of the multiverse and back, and because it's a fiber that everything's built out of. This you can't see it, but there's a magnetic field around this that's holding that energy in this composition that I call a cup. Now, if I so chose, I could say, well, no, that's really a car. That's really a car. And then I start putting the car together in my mind. You'll find, and not in the third dimension so much, because we don't have the patience and understanding to realize it, but it would morph into whatever I chose for it to be at that moment. But in doing this, I have to change the reality out here as well, because people can't believe that I could change a cup into a car. So with the no belief in it, it can't happen to them. It can happen to me because I know, but to them is a belief of, no, that's you're going too far out, Ralph. Okay.
The thing is, I can see this on one level, but my mind really doesn't get around the other one, because as a fiber artist, I've actually done demonstrations where, one reason I think that string and things were so magical to early people is because you take a fiber that either grows in the ground or that you take off an animal, and it's just a bunch of fuzz, and you go through steps where you very carefully do X, Y, and Z, and if you do X, Y, and Z, you end up with a cloth like my shirt is made out of. But, so you're doing a transformative process, but there are certain steps, physical steps that you take. And I think you're saying that there may be ways to do this without involving the physical tools, or at least that the template can get out there without the physical tools.
Thank you for what you just said, because I can now open I think a way to explain this, that we are multitasking, multidimensionally existing simultaneously at the same time. So as this is a table, it also could be any of a billion different things on different levels, on different vibratory rates. This energy field here could be, could be a castle, it could be a planet, it could be anything. But we have frames of reference. That's where we don't get lost, because in frames of reference, I can say, this is real, this is a reality here. There's no doubt in my mind this is skin, this is a body, but I can also, multi-dimensionally speaking, that this is all energy, and that I'm creating this energy in microseconds, and I'm creating everything that I view in these little cameras that are going 24.5 cycles, because that's what we see a second, to perceive it as different and as solid and as density of energy. But I can raise the vibratory rate in my sight, my realization, and see things differently. I can see through walls. I can see through. I can see behind me in 360 degrees, if I need and want to at any time. But those things come only when they're necessary. They're not parlor trips, and they're not anything that you show off or even to yourself to experience. They come when there's a definite purpose. And anyhow, getting back to Hawaii, so I was in touch with Marsh. She lived in Phoenix at the time, and I was in Las Vegas. I got tired. I had to commute, and every 2 weeks I had to fly over. I had to get on the internet, find a ticket. What's the most reasonable? What's the best plane? What's the best? How am I going to get to the airport this time? Do I leave my car? Do So I take about all these things were distracting to what I was focused on, which was basically loving my animals. I had birds and I had animals around me, and I loved to spend my time with them. But all these things were distracting, and it got to be this enormous chore. I felt like I was in servitude of, I have to go to Hawaii. I've got to get back, and security has to search me, and customs has to question me, and all these things. So I told Marcia, I was, I after I'd gone so many times that I was tired, I said, this is enough. I will not go this way again. So the next thing I knew, I was sitting around the round table in Hawaii, Talakalua Bay, and we were discussing things, and a friend over here said, well, how was your flight? Instantly, and this is in microseconds, instantly I realized I hadn't had a flight. I didn't have a flight. The next instant, I had the opportunity, and I said thank you to the universe for giving me this opportunity to create the entire flight in my mind. I was flight 17. We left out of, the flight was delayed a little bit, and there was peanuts instead of pretzels, and I could see it. The whole flight was happening. And then I reached in my pocket and pulled out a ticket. Delta Airlines, Kona, Hawaii, from Las Vegas, Nevada, time element, everything. And I said, yeah, it's flight 17. Stuck it back in my pocket. Completely natural, but everything's natural in its own dimension. There's no exorbitant excitement about anything. You just say, yeah, okay. So I stuck it back. And it didn't grasp me in my conscious mind, which says that's impossible. You couldn't have done that. Until I realized I had teleported. I had not gone physically. I'd gone in another framework, another frame of reference, another dimension. And I could explain it. I could realize it. The difference is realization, because all of us do this all the time, but we just don't realize it. We think we drive our cars. We think we take the boat. And we do if we say, so say. But if you say, no, wait a minute, I'm here, and then all of a sudden, oh, here I am now, then you can do this. And we all do it. But we don't realize it. And the reason we don't is because we're kept busy with distractions, and we don't focus on who and what we are, and the powers and the ability that we have to do this. So, and that was quite simple to me. I said, same thing with a cell phone. I got tired, and I was a locksmith for 38 years, and I had to carry rolls of quarters and find a phone booth out in the middle of nowhere to find my next call and where I had to go. And one day I looked at the quarters, and I was in frustration. I said, no, I don't care. I'm not going to be doing this anymore. So the next thing I realized, I was talking on a cell phone, and then I looked at it. I thought, oh my God. It seemed like just moments ago, or days ago, or weeks ago, that this was not even in existence. It didn't exist then. So the whole picture, the whole scenario can be changed by a willingness and an intention strong enough to change it, to do something with it, without doubt.
I have a rather probably strange question on this, but I read a lot of science fiction, and one of my favorite authors is Robert Heinlein. I grew up with him, and he kind of gave me a lot of my worldview, I think. And there's an interesting book he wrote where they create a machine that travels between the dimensions, and they don't even realize that they've gone anywhere. They get in the machine and they turn it on, and the hero and the heroine, but they get out and they look in the phone book in their office, and there's no J. Everything is exactly the same as when they got in the machine, but the world is without a J. And ever since then, it's sort of a family joke. Me and my husband will say, but yes, are we in world without a J? or are we still on the same timeline type of thing? And my curiosity would be, and there may not be an answer, but when these things happen, like you're suddenly on the cell phone, have you maybe somehow jumped timelines if they exist, or dimensions where there is a cell phone, or have you created one in this one?
Simultaneously, both.
Okay.
Because you don't leave one without the other. In an ether environment, that's the higher consciousness, if you will, there's no more either or. There's only more. And that means that simultaneously everything's happening at the same moment. It's where you put your focus on the peaks of the situation or object or thing, that I can say yes this, yes this, yes this, and every one of them are true from the frame of reference that I'm coming from on the subject. So it's like, it's a wonderful feeling to know I'm never wrong. I can't be wrong. To me, I'm never wrong. I'm always right. That sounds like a big egotistical thing.
You need a button, I am always right.
But the fact is that only to me do I realize this. But me is you and you and me and everything. So that we, like the Beatles put it into the walrus in I can't think of the name of the song now, but they said, I am you and you are me. It's like we're all one. And that when you realize that, then you can say, I am the only one that really exists. And that's true. But I is all of us. And everyone can say the same thing. I'm existing in your world, you're existing in my world, but we're all collectively in the same consciousness of a wonderful experience.
Because we're all one.
Because you're all one.
But to take this down again, maybe back a little bit to my possibly less cosmic level, when I was growing up, particularly when I first got into things in the 1980s, and now again in Ireland, we are sort of 20 years behind, not behind necessarily, but just catching up in the same directions. And of course, the big thing is some people holding up almost signs saying, you create your own reality. And they often say this, they think they're being very helpful, which you are being helpful. But the way they will say it, the implication is, oh, so you have cancer. Well, you create your own reality. It's, to me, it's not very kind, and it's not very sympathetic, and it's not overly helpful. But my response after thinking about it is a long time, yes, maybe on some level, I am creating my own reality on this, but everybody else is also creating their own reality, and all together we're making this reality, and that includes the germs and the bacteria and the cells and the different things. And so it's more of a complex process than just, otherwise I could maybe just sit down and think, well, I'll be fine. And everybody would live forever because they would never see that they needed to cross over. Well, and I don't know. But
that's closer to the truth than you realize, because like germs and bacteria and everything else, that's the reason Monsanto's in existence, to kill those bad germs and stuff. Well, they're killing us because they're killing the good germs as well as the bad, and the bacteria and so forth, as well as the bad. So it's like that's that either or the good or bad, and it doesn't matter, because when you realize that we're immortal, indestructible beings, and we have an immune system that instantly will defend or create an opposite to anything that is opposing to the system, and that includes the body. And you count on that, you know that, then you don't have to participate in poisons, in fluoride, and all the rest of it, chemtrails and things. Or it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because I know who I am, and I'm an immortal being, and I have immortal powers, and because I have a destiny that I've created, I want to see freedom come back to the world on all levels, so that everybody, no, I'm rich and I'm poor, no more. I want to see everybody have an equal chance to do whatever they want to do with their lives without fear.
And I think this, I know we didn't want to just focus the whole interview on this, but I think this may be a good chance. When I heard one of your older interviews, you were talking about how the technology you were working on in the 1950s and 60s, this was really more your goal. It wasn't like to create this amazing car, almost like Robert Heinlein's. In fact, I know that Mr. Heinlein knew about more things than he talked about, and I have a feeling that listening to your interview on the technology that you were involved with, it sounds the same. So he may either have been picking something up from the template, or he may actually have known things because he had been in the military and had contacts. But your goal was really so that to sort of equalize things, to make things easier for people to.
And in a time frame, remember we're talking 50 or so years ago, things like I'm discussing now were taboo, if not taboo, at least unusual or cuckoo or whatever. Now we're talking about aliens, and within a few weeks now, we're going to experience things that we've never haven't experienced in quite a while. There's going to be massive changes on another level that people will be able to perceive, because whether they like it or not, they're evolving. They're no longer horizontally moving. They're vertically moving up in their consciousness.
Well, that's very interesting, because I haven't been able to really follow it being traveling, but I understand that Cliff High from the WebBots Forum, or not, he's not on the WebBots Forum, but I'm on the WebBots Forum, and we study the works of Cliff High, and we listen to him a lot, and he had said something about something coming, but I hadn't had a chance to listen to that interview. This
is beyond it. In fact, I have to say, it's never happened in the galaxy or multi-dimensional galaxies before. It's something so spectacular, so changing, that we're all going to realize a complete shift. I mean, on many, many levels, very soon now.
Are we talking about alien contact, or
on
on a general level, not
Yeah, but we've had alien contact since Eisenhower and all. They've had alien contacts for years, since the early 50s and 60s. They've had contact with aliens, and they have their agendas, and we have our agendas in a third dimensional way of discussing things, but they don't want much to do with a planet that is still very much barbarous, that kills and eats each other. We eat our animals. We say, this is my best friend, but I'm hungry, and we eat our best friend and stuff. I mean, it's gross, but it's true. And we have been in touch with many, many benevolent beings that you wouldn't know it, because they look and act just like you and I, and there's no difference, except the consciousness that's coming through them is completely alien compared to what our normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill stuff is. And they don't have to appear as grays or greens or blues. They can appear to the way that you would like them to appear, like a good friend. Oh, God, don't I know you from somewhere? They can appear, and you can exchange wonderful ideas and things, and then you go about your own way. But
we had a really exciting kind of experience. The same day we received our little alien friend here, Voltra, we had a friend of ours that has visited many times, and Ralph, you've known him.
No, he's a brilliant scientist. Yeah. He's a scientist in the.
And he brought some friends of his over that were they were very unaware of anything like this, and he wanted us to tell our story. And so after we opened our little Voltra and set him on the table, and we were talking towards the end of the visit, and it was an all-day visit, George just announced that he gets his guidance from his father, who is on another planet.
Well,
can you tell that a little better?
You limit it when you say another planet. Yeah. He's from a multi-dimensional consciousness.
And it was pretty.
It's the Galactic Federation. It's the Federation of planets, if you will. But his consciousness is endless. It goes on. And he revealed that not only, and I've known George for years, and we were good friends and close and everything, but he was talking because these people were really against Obama, like, oh, this guy and his, and they were going, and one of the reasons he brought them to us, because everything that they were feeling was very anti-everything, against everything and everybody on every level. And so we were enlightening them as to the difference that they had choices, the way they looked at things. So he said, from his position, that he, from the galactic pack, he was here, to his father was Voltra. And Voltra, to another friend of ours called Haton, were effective in many changes that are taking place on planet Earth right now. But he explained another version. He said, well, let me give you another version of Obama and see how this fits. The same one, the way I dissected the words. You can look now, if you will, on the internet or any way you want to get your information and see there's many, many things happening on different levels. One of them is economics. It's just critical. It's starting to crumble. It's starting to change and everything. And the consciousness of people are changing every day. But we have given our power for years, long enough, to a certain collective group. Let's say things like the Federal Reserve or people behind the Federal Reserve that says, well, we can control the world here. We can have it and we can give everybody their creature comforts, give them whatever they want, but just don't let them think for themselves here. And until we build up a monster, the monster is a cartel that is controlling the whole thing. And it consists of, well, I've heard 13 families, maybe more or whatever, but they're controlling behind the bankers, behind everything. They're controlling all these things. And so it's come to the attention of the International Criminal Tribunal of the world. And this is collective bodies that have come together from different countries and formulated crimes against humanity and so forth, that the cartels become so powerful that no matter what you do, we don't have a chance. They've got us. They've got armies. They've got laws, and unless we stop the cartel, we're doomed to repeat this over and over again as slaves forever. So my friend George, which I didn't know this about George till it happened, and he was quite expressive, said the Obama team, that means the people behind Obama, that he was the perfect person to do this because of, for many, many reasons, he went into a few of them, that they had to have a way that the cartel would defeat themselves. We couldn't do it anymore. It was too powerful. We let it get away from us. So they created this giant sting operation called the monetary, the money, what do you call it? The exchange, RV. Revolution era. Well,
it's a money exchange.
The dinar and the dong and that
it's called. They've shortened it to RV.
Yeah, and I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
But so it came out quite a while ago that they were going to exchange in these different countries, and dinar in Iran, I think it was, and dong in Vietnam, I think it was, that they were going to have this enormous monetary shift because they were devaluating the dollar as such and so forth. So they presented these, let's call them, they call them the White Knights, as a matter of fact, these group of beings that
also white hats,
and white
They're
hats,
also referred as white hats,
white knights, that said we've had enough. I mean, we're killing our own selves. We are extincting the human race, and That's as far as we go. We're going to turn it around. But how are we going to stop this enormous cartel that's got all the power and money and ways and means and to change things? We let them defeat themselves. How do you do that? You create this monetary thing, and I'm paraphrasing.
I understand. You're paraphrasing, but this is the gist of what he said.
Yeah.
That we'll tell everybody, "Whoa, you better buy into this now, boy. You can get $30 to 1 on this exchange now and stuff." And then they created this idea and got everybody interested. And then they said, "Oh, it's all scam. It's all fake and everything." And then the white hats told, now these are Congress members. This has already happened.
This is happening.
They
now.
are being arrested now. The bankers and everything else are being arrested. This can be looked up too and verified. We're going to tell them, here's the candy shop, but get it before the public knows about this. You can get 20, 30, 40, 50 to 1. You can get 100 to 1 here if you're fast enough and get in here and get this money while it's available. So here they come. The greed got all these people in there, and they bought into the dinar and the dong, enormous amounts. They didn't leave anything left for anybody else. And then they found that it was a trap, and the doors closed. And outside of this was the International Tribunal of Criminal Affairs. And it's saying, guess what, boys? Your game is over forever. You can no longer hold office. You've stolen from the people. And not only are we going to give it all back, but everything you own is going to the people now. And this is all in transition. This is happening. And don't take my word for it. But
all the music used on the show today is from musicalley.com, your source for free-to-air music for podcasts. The artists place their music up for free to air in hopes that you, the listener, will visit their site and purchase some of their outstanding musical offerings. So after the show, why not visit musicalley.com and explore their extensive playlist?
And she sings, she goes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings.
Have questions? The cards have answers. If you would like a personal reading with Melody, just go to my website, melodipsychicreadings.com. That's Melody with an I, psychicreadings.com, for information, or email me at melodyreader@gmail.com. Readings are available using Skype, phone, email, or even in person if you are lucky to live in Ireland. Why not find out what special messages the cards have just for you and book a private reading today?
And see me from beneath the sea, the best in all of Ireland. See me from beneath the sea, the best in all of Ireland.
No, I know that we knew that something was going on. I'm also on a number of survival lists and different things, and we have been keeping track. Some people have how many bankers have recently jumped off of buildings,
Yes.
jumped off of bridges. One of them, I think, supposedly committed suicide on jumping over a very small wall, on an embankment. Very strange. And of course, there's all the questions of, is this really suicide or is this...
That's what we're hearing too, that
Yeah.
it is not.
we've got a list. A friend of ours has a list of 30 of them that are documented, all murders. They were all murdered, 30
But they're
bastard.
but they're putting
But
them
they-
out as different things.
they put
them
as
out as
suicides or as accidents or whatever.
But they've got a certain amount of evidence that proves that, they were taken out.
Well, I mean, that would certainly be a better option than what I had been afraid of, which was simply that things were starting to collapse and people were just either offing themselves or being offed because they knew too much about it, and the economy was about to crash, which, being kind of a doomer person, that was kind of what I had expected. But it would be interesting. I don't really want to get too much into politics, but of course that's what came up because of your friends. I mean, my personal view is I had wondered about any president, a recent president, not just the current occupant of the White House, but they don't seem to be really in control. Not that under our political system.
Yeah.
Any president is supposed to be totally in control. But seriously, I just had the feeling they're doing what they're told.
That's right. They're just puppets. They are really puppets. But they make a good puppet because they have everything, all the qualities necessary to make them look good and, smile and, whatever it is. I don't know. But all the changes necessary to convince people that everything's good. But see, behind that is the most wonderful thing, that the realization this is all a big game. We're playing Monopoly here or whatever. This is really supposed to have been a fun game, but we took it seriously and started really getting serious. We cut a head off, that's the end of that guy. And instead of, realizing, well, I'll see you later. And so it's gotten so thick and gooey and serious that time's up. The end of the game is coming. And then now our big adversaries, like all the people we want to hate and all the people, they have pushed us into going back to source, going to the inside for their information, their intuition, because their brain has left them stranded. Their brain, their academia there's no way I can see to get out of this thing. But the intuition says there's always a way out. You're a creative being. You can change things instantly. Just don't believe in this. Don't do that. Do this. Do that. And know that you're a free being of the multiverse. So
and you're supposed to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Have fun with all this is happening.
Yeah. And all this is leading back to the source of who and what we are. We are a soul. Webster's defined soul 20 years ago when I was in school. Soul, immortal being. I didn't get it then, but I get it now. Immortal being. Wow, that's cool. You mean I go on forever? Yeah, of course you do. Your energy. And this came home to me when I worked for the government. I worked in a government-funded facility, and we had all kinds of. We had teleportation. We had there's
so your teleportation,
and we had levitation and things going on. But my friend worked on an electron microscope. He's a couple benches away, and we'd have lunch together occasionally. Go over and have a sandwich and talk. And we're talking about energy. Of course, the whole place ran on energy because we were using lasers and we were using magnetic fields and teleportation and stuff. Well, he said he'd rigged this little device where I could put my finger under the scope, an electron microscope. And he says, "Here, stick your finger in here. Tell me what you see." I stuck my finger in and looked. Nothing there. Not my finger. I stuck it in. What do you see? Well, it's all energy. It's energy. Yeah, that's who you are. That finger exists only in your optic vision, in your 5-dimensional senses, that it's a reality. No, there's much, much more to you than that finger. And that's the energy field and what you are. And that's the magnetic field. That's the composition that's holding this idea together.
So is that part of, I have in my notes that you talk about something called natural law. Is that part of this energy field?
Yes, it's all natural law. The difference between natural law and man-made laws is, let's take the word time. Time now we say exists. Well, they're beginning to realize from quantum realities, because since Heisenberg and the uncertainty principle, that the idea of extending the energy to look at something can also change it. It just doesn't. There is no end. There is no beginning or end to anything. So you take time and you say from A to B. Okay, it takes so much time to get from A to B, and that's a conception that we live in the third dimension. But just a stone's throw away from that, we realize time doesn't really exist in space. There is no time unless we create it. So the idea of fourth dimensional and stuff is time and space. And then we get into what's called the fifth dimension, because people love to put labels on things, where we bilocate. We transfer through, this thing called time and space, because it doesn't really exist. The only thing that exists is consciousness, and it's how we play the game. Big Monopoly game we're playing, and all these adversaries and all these bad guys are really, it's like pushing us. We have the easy way or the hard way. And if you don't get it the easy way, here comes a pitchfork. You're going to get it one way or another, buddy, but you're going to get out of this game, because I want to get this game over so we can play another one. And it's a wonderful thing. It's all wonderful. It's all beautiful.
So I think this is a really good way to kind of sort of tie things together. What is, I know you've already hinted at it, but for the average listener, if they want to learn or experience ways to enjoy the game and maybe avoid a few pitchforks, how would you suggest they do that? And that could be from either of you.
Well, there's so many different ways.
Change their perception is one of the big ways.
Well, realizing their change their perception. Like, if you want to continue to watch horror movies and blood and gore, okay, but don't buy into it, or you're going to become just like that, because you are what you associate with. But if you want to continue to watch them, look at them as, oh, well, that's just a game, and that's Hollywood. And say, well, I see the way they do that. That's clever animation and Hollywood sound effects and stuff. Then you have a choice in how you accept it. It's a matter of acceptance, and that's in everything we do. So for the audience's sake, that if they want to change their reality, if they're tired of being a slave in servitude to a time clock, those people that have to go in every morning, just try this. And Marsh and I have done this years ago, and we still do it. We realize we're the creator of our own time, nobody else. So, and we've tested this. We've had appointments. We said, well, we got to be there at 7 o'clock because there's going to be 30 people that are expecting us to be there. And along the way, there was an accident. A car went under a semi. Here's blood and guts and bodies all over, but there's still some people alive. We had to stop because of our impulses to help these people until we got that there was people on the way.
Yes.
We had to stop. Well, by the time we got to our meetings on the way, we started saying, oh my God, it's 45 minutes late, and we've got people from all over the world going to be there. No, not so. When we got there, they were late. The whole scenario changed. And then we realized that, and we started using that. We are on our own time, and everything has to, because we are the creator of our own reality. So we can warp or change our perception and our ways of doing things as simply as just doing it. What's that song that Sinatra used to sing?
I did it my way.
I did it my way, and the little old ant that can't. I can't think of the name of it, but
I'm afraid that's a little before. I think I was not quite born yet.
High Hopes.
Yeah, High Hopes.
High Hopes.
Oh, I remember Bob Hope singing
you,
that. That was.
Yeah.
And in the music, we get a lot of these hints on the way. If we listen to music and some of the lyrics to music, they're saying you can do anything if you know you can. Don't doubt, because the minute you doubt yourself, you short circuit yourself, and then you say, well, I can't, and I can't because you said so. But if you say I can, and I'm not stopping till I get it done, okay, let's go. And it has to be because you say so in your own reality.
I think that's wonderful. Before we go, I'd like to give you a chance to mention your website. And
Sure.
Could you tell us what your website is? And...
Sure. It's Blue Star Enterprise. BlueStarEnterprise.com. bluestarenterprise.com. And it's open to the public. It's a free-standing beacon in the night, if you will, for people to come together of like minds. And we've got thousands of people now that are in and of the website and on Skype that are communicating with each other. We're having doctors, we're having legal people, doctors, scientists that are converging on levels that they'd never dreamed possible, because they thought, well, this was my own science fiction. I didn't know I could do this. And now they're beginning to do these things, and hence the change is happening. We have the 3D printer. We're making human parts. There's 10 women in Boston that have a bladder made out of the 3D printer, and they're doing fine. We have organs being manufactured. We have the skin gun, which is, the guy was burned to the crisp, and they said, there's no way we can help you. You're beyond our help. A doctor shows up with what he called a skin gun. He went into the stem cells and the DNA, pulled out, because we're all millions of us inside of us. We're all in a hologram. There's millions of us. Pulled out the optimum conditions of his skin or whatever, put it in his gun, and sprayed him like an airbrush. 4 days later, and you can see this on YouTube. 4 days later, you can't tell he was ever burned. A little pink, that's all. Bloom box, that's another thing. Google has now accepted the Bloom box, and they're running their facilities on free and abundant energy. It's just the start, but it's happening. And so, like mushrooms, this new stuff, as the old stuff is phasing out, it's no longer acceptable. Fear and doubt, arguing and fighting is no longer acceptable. Let's be friends. Let's talk about this. Have a beer, or have a wine, have a Coke, have a glass of orange juice. But you see, it's because the old ways don't work anymore. Nobody wants to fight anymore. Let's have some peace. So that's the change.
So that would, and in your website, I know also it has hundreds of, or at least dozens of interviews I could see for those interested in more in alternative technology experiences or things going on. And I also noticed that there seem to be groups or links for people who are actually working sort of in little groups called pods or something to try to recreate some of this technology that I think that the government said something about shooting you out of the sky or something if you kept going. So people are working to sort of recreate that and salvage it. And again, you can find all of that information if you're interested. And I mean, I'm about as my technology stops with the spinning wheel. I can sort of take apart a spinning wheel and put it back together. But, that's about my level. But for those of you who really want to see more about the science and might even want to try building models and things, this would be the website you would also go to.
And on the website, there's a link you can pull down, a pull-down menu called Getting Started. And if they want to see how to build geometrically, their own ideas of a replica of a spaceship or a prototype that they can eventually achieve on a model scale, just tap into it and help yourself.
And I hope some other time we can maybe get together again and maybe we can talk more about that sort of thing. Sure. But I'm really happy that we had this chance to talk about alternative realities and multi-dimensions and the game. Because that's a new concept to me, and I like that. I like that we should, especially being in a society for creative anachronism, which again, I'll put a link up on my site. We just get together, it's like a medieval club, and we pretend we're Vikings or Roman soldiers or Elizabethan, mercenaries or whatever. But we do, as I said earlier, we do reenactment fighting, but we do just get together and people bash each other. And then they go home and have a beer together. They go to the pub, and that's that's the game.
That's the game.
That's the game.
And that's what we're all playing. Is that same game.
And we're playing. My
and
family
we need to remember that it's a game, and be happy with what's going on in our lives. Yeah,
my family goes back in knighthoods. I've got knights all the way back to the Arthurian culture and beyond. I mean, the whole family, but they are.
You were saying the knights in your family background, but they all are something.
Yeah, they go back. You know what I was going to say? Wait a minute. Well, it has to do with the game that we think of bad guys, and so we have bad guys, If we don't think them as bad guys, that's, oh, another adversary coming my way. I got to deal with this guy, this jerk again, you know. In other words, here comes another, I didn't pass it last time. He's giving me another chance at this. Okay. You look at it differently. And then you're having fun to outwitting or outsmarting or maneuvering around a situation that will stop you cold if you doubt or fear it and run away from it, fight or flight. Instead, you get into this serene feeling of peace and say, okay, you blankety blank, let's get this thing settled here. And you work at it in a way. And I've had some battles, and at the end of the battle, we just hugged each other and said, you son of a gun. You know, we just really felt great because we solved this thing that we thought was a problem, and it was only an opportunity.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful closing thought. And I'd like to thank both of you for being here. And I want to thank my audience for joining us this evening, or possibly this evenings. I'm not sure quite how long this ran. So this may be 2 shows. And in any case, I want to thank you all for being here. And that's all for this Cat's Eye on the Future. See you next time.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
But here's a health to the company, and one to my lass.
You have been listening to Cat's Eye on the Future, the show where we take a glimpse of the energies coming soon into your world and into your future. Be sure to join us again next time when we explore another chapter of Cat's Eye on the Future.
Again. But here's a health to the company, and one to my lass. Let's drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let's drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may, it might never all meet.